welcome back to my channel. I know I haven't been around for a while, but life happened. Welcome to today's video. Today's video we're just going to be talking about renting, and again, please, this is just a disclaimer. I'm just an everyday person. I'm not a realtor, I'm not a estate agent, and this is just personal experience. So as you all know, we immigrated to the United Kingdom in 2020. My husband came over first. My husband's name is Martin. He came over first in March 2020, and the girls and I followed in November 2020, because we had to wait for visas. So for those of you who've gone the spousal route, you know that you need some sort of lease agreement or floor plan that you need to submit with your application. So we had to get on it and find a place to rent. Martin had to find a place to rent for all of us as soon as possible, so that when we applied for our visas, we had the documentation that we needed. So while we've lived in the UK, we have rented 2 properties. The first property, our landlord decided he wanted to sell, so we had to leave. That property was through a letting agent, but the second property that we're in now is a landlord on their own, and it's, to be honest, it's been much nicer and much easier renting through a landlord on their own than through a letting agent, but I'll get into all of that as we go through the video. So to start the process, what Martin had to do is, because there is 5 of us, you need a minimum of a 3-bedroom place, which is, I think even in South Africa you would need that sort of rule, if I can put it that way. So Martin started scouring the internet for rentals, but the thing is, and you need to remember this when you are looking for a rental, it is super quick. So the moment you see one, if you like it, you need to send an inquiry to the agent as soon as possible, or contact them by phone if it's there, if the phone number's on the website. Martin was unsuccessful with a few of them. He wasn't quick enough, but the one that we ended up renting, he managed to get hold of the agent as quickly as possible, and the agent was very nice. Even although it was COVID, they were allowed to go through the house. They had to wear their masks, and Martin was allowed to WhatsApp video chat with me while he was looking around the property. I got to see, look, don't get me wrong, you can't see the proper size of the place while you're on a WhatsApp call, but you get an idea of what your future house is going to look like. So because the fact that Martin was able to, because this one was available, we were able to get it. Now, we were very fortunate in that this property was considered a 0 deposit property. So Martin didn't have to pay a deposit up front, but he did have to pay a small fee to hold the property and things like that. The house was classified as 0 deposit, which means that you pay a small fee instead of a deposit. Now, that doesn't mean that all properties are like that here in the UK. Not at all. There are some properties where they'll ask for a month, they'll ask for 2 months, they even ask as far as 6-month deposit up front. And it's not unreasonable. It's that people have messed them around in the past, so they've had to ask for more money up front. So now that all of that was sorted and Martin was going to be renting this place, there are certain things that he needed to produce in order to get the rental. That was his British passport, his pay slips, confirmation of employment, and his bank details. Sorry, I am looking here because I do have some notes here and I don't want to go off the topic. So once he's supplied those 4 items, they look at them and they then let you know if you qualify to rent the place. Obviously we did qualify and we were able to start renting. Now, the letting agent or the landlord will compile something called a schedule, inventory and schedule of condition. This document is very important, and you need to make sure at all times that you are checking this document throughout the time that you rent there. And then if you ever are leaving, you need to make sure that everything looks exactly the same as it did on the inventory and schedule of condition. Because the smallest thing the landlord or the letting agent can charge you for. So in a house where You have, because there are some houses which you can rent where there is a stove, a fridge, a dishwasher, a washing machine, a tumble dryer, things like that. The letting agent will write down the condition that that appliance is in. And when you leave, that appliance has to be in the same condition, which is fair enough. Because when you moved in, you wanted it in a certain way. So it's only fair that you leave it in a certain way. Obviously, there is wear and tear, but you have to make sure that it looks the same as when it moved in. There is also things like cupboard doors, marks on carpets, things like that. If there or a scuff mark on the skirting board, there will be notes made. So when you're leaving and the letting agent or landlord says, but there's a scuff on the skirting board, you can go, no, that was in my original inventory. The landlord or letting agent will also have to check and sign the inventory and schedule of condition because they don't want to make mistakes themselves. So just remember that however it is, try and keep it as close to that as possible because you don't want to incur costs when you move out. Okay. Once all of this is finished and completed and you've done the inventory and you've had a look through the documents and everything, and the landlord or the letting agent had contacted you and said, right, we all systems go, you will need to start discussing a moving in date with the letting agent, and they will say, well, the house is available from this day or it's empty, you can move in. Obviously, if you're moving from another property to this property, you need to give notice of your previous property, etc. before you move in. Now, in the UK, there is a lot of energy suppliers. There is a lot of telecom suppliers. There is a lot of, I'm just checking here, internet providers, things like that. There is a lot of suppliers that you need to look through before you make a decision. So we were given lots of ideas for energy companies. We went with Octopus Energy. We have Southeast Water because we live in the county of Kent. It depends on where you live that you would get your water from. So I'm not sure of any other companies in the UK, but I know that we get ours from Southeast Water. Your internet and landline providers, there is many. You can go through all of them and have a look and see which one suits your needs better. We use Home Telecom. You pay these service providers directly. For example, if your landlord says you have to use this energy supplier because of this reason, then obviously you don't get a choice. But if you have a choice in your service providers, you then would do some research before committing to one of them. You need to pay council tax. Once you move into a home, there is council tax, so you pay per adult and per child. We now have 4 adults in the house. When we first moved to England, we only had 2, so we only paid for 2 adults and 3 children. We now pay for 4 adults and 1 child. You need to register for council tax. It is a monthly payment, or if you have the money, you can pay for it a year upfront. On moving day, you move into your new home. On your inventory and schedule of condition and your lease agreement will be your brand new address. Your address is very important here in the United Kingdom. You need it for a lot of things. You need it for doctors, dentists, schools, and your work will need to know. So always make sure that you know, and your postal code is quite important as well. I'll get into that when I do the post video, but your postal code is quite important, and a lot of people will ask you for it. If you watched my schools video, you know remember what I said, wherever you live, there are normally schools in your area. Obviously, if you have to go out your area, that's different, but the schools in your local area will need your postcode as well, and your lease agreement. So your lease agreement and your inventory of schedule of condition are very important. You need to hold on to those 2 things, and you need to keep them in a safe place. Okay, once you are in and you're unpacked and you're comfortable in your new home, there are some things to remember. Firstly, the houses sizes between South Africa and England are very, very different. Depending on your budget, obviously, if you have a bigger budget and you can afford a bigger house here in the UK, it might not be so different. But in South Africa, we had a huge garden. We had a massive 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms, a dining room, a lounge. We had 2 flats on our property, and I think we had 4 dogs. Now that we live in the UK, we have no pets whatsoever. We have a small 3-bedroom house. There is a lounge, a dining room, a conservatory. There is a guest toilet as you walk in the door. And then upstairs you have 3 bedrooms and a main family bathroom. The nice thing about having a smaller house here in the UK is it is easier to clean. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't maids or cleaners. There are. If you cannot do the cleaning yourself, you would obviously need to inquire with a cleaning service or a cleaning company about when they can send someone to come and clean your home. But due to the fact that I'm a stay-at-home mom, I do the cleaning myself. Just remember, if you are bringing pets to the UK, that is a very important thing that you need to tell your letting agent or your landlord, because they need to make, for example, if you're using a letting agent, they need to make the landlord aware. And obviously there are places in the UK that are going to say no pets. Our first rental and this rental, both for now, no pets. So we don't have pets. But if you have a pet and you bring them over from South Africa, you need to make them aware, and they might increase your rent, they might not. And also just remember, if you're bringing a pet, when it comes time to leave and time to clean and do all that, you need to make sure that any damages that your pet has caused to the property are fixed properly. Now, let's say you've decided that this house is very nice, but you're moving out because you found a bigger place or a better place, or it's closer to your child's school, or it's closer to work for you, or commute, or whatever. You are now moving out. You need to remember that when you sign the lease agreement, there should be a part in the lease agreement that tells you how much notice you need to give. So, for example, in the house where we were previously renting, there was a 2-month break clause. So you had to be there 6 months, then give 2 months notice, and you could move out in the 8th month, if that was the case. Now, because the landlord decided to sell, he gave us more than enough notice. So we had to give 2 months notice when we found this current rental that we moved into. So we had to, I think we gave notice in April, and we moved into our second rental in the June. So you need to make sure that you all understand the lease and the break clause. Obviously, if you are happy and you want to rent there for a year, and then it comes time for renewal, but you decide, no, I'd rather move out, then there's no need to use the break clause. The break clause is there if something should happen in between your lease time. So if you decide 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, you need to discuss that with your landlord or letting agent. Now you've decided it's time to move out. So my personal opinion and some advice here, rather get yourselves a professional carpet cleaner and a professional cleaner. When we moved from our first rental into our second, the letting agent tried to sort of nitpick and find every little thing wrong with the place. And when we pointed out a few things on the inventory, they were sorry and they said, okay, fair enough. We realize that that's been there for a while, but we did incur a little bit of a cost when we left, because there were some things that they said weren't done properly and they had to get in a carpet cleaner, etc. So my advice to you, obviously, remember, this is our first time doing these things, so we are learning as we go. So my advice is rather get professional cleaners than to clean, so that you don't incur costs later. And obviously, leave the rental in the same condition that you would like to find it. So don't break things, don't damage things. Try and remember that the next person living there after you wants to move into it as nice as you moved into it. So it goes back to the old saying, treat things as you would like people to treat your things. all in all, we loved our first rental. It was our first home in the United Kingdom, and it was cozy and warm, and it helped us to establish a life. It helped us to find a school for Leah. It helped us to find schools for Casey and Hannah. But when the landlord decided to sell, it took us out of our comfort zone, and we had to find a new place to go, which we did. And we are very happy in the second rental. We are happier using a landlord instead of a letting agent. And we have been here for just over 6 months, and we are very happy in our new rental. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that some of the advice that I've given on here is helpful, and I hope that if you're watching this video and you know someone who's moving to the UK and they would need to watch this video just to help them out, please share my video. Please, if you do like this video, give it a like so that I know. And if you like this video and you like the series that I have already, the series that I'm doing, the differences between United Kingdom and South Africa, please subscribe down below. I would love to have you on my channel, and I am going to be making more videos in the coming weeks. Like I said, unfortunately, there's just been too much going on, and I haven't had a chance to do the others. The next one that I'm going to be doing is all about the postal system in England, and the difference between the postal system in England and South Africa. So I'd really like it if you come back and watch that one. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope you have a great day further. Bye.